So now, this is the last section where I want to talk about how transhumanism is branching out through our pop culture and the importance of fiction, because we are not a culture that sits around the flickering fire flames and learns lessons of ethics and deep mythology. We're a culture that sits around the flickering of movie screens and TV screens, and that's where we get our ethics and our great myths. So that fiction is always based on somebody's worldview somehow. So why consider fiction? Why not just say it's just a book, it's just disregard it, it's just a story? As Jacques Ellul put it in the Technological Society, the motion picture, by means of its quote-unquote reality, integrates the spectator so completely that an uncommon spiritual force or psychological education is necessary to resist its pressures. And if you attended my multiverse lecture, gosh, a couple years ago now, you'll recall I had a section in there about movies that featured the concept of the multiverse. Because I don't know how many people are going to sit around and read peer-reviewed science journal papers on the cosmological multiverse theory. But I guarantee you they'll sit around and watch tons of movies and TV shows that include that idea, so that they're ready to just believe it because it's just so accessible to them. It's been just told to them so often in such appealing ways that, well, sure, I could totally see that. Why not? It's the same. This machine that was meant to extract the human soul. What on earth are aliens traveling across the entire universe to basically, I don't know, it's a reverse exorcism? I don't know. They want to extract human souls. That's what aliens are up to. So now, speaking of the golem, let's just take huge jumps through the history of literature and movies and fiction. Here's Frankenstein. You'll notice the subtitle, or the full title, Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus. Right? If you recall, we discussed Prometheus. Now, did you know that Dr. Victor Frankenstein, and by the way, right, the Frankenstein is the name of the doctor, the scientist. The creature actually is not named. Did you know his primary goal was the raising of ghosts or devils? You see, just last year I went through the book Frankenstein and I was blown away. I mean, I thought it was just a story about a rampaging creature, but it is deeply theological, deeply theological. The doctor says, the raising of ghosts or devils was a promise liberally accorded by my favorite authors, the fulfillment of which I most eagerly sought. Alchemists as the principal authors I studied. I had been animated by an almost supernatural enthusiasm. A new species would bless me as its creator and source. Many happy and excellent natures would owe their being to me, a being whom I myself had formed and endued with life, my creation. Now, in the late 1980s, I knew a fellow who said, I'm ready to have my brain plugged into a computer. Now, I don't know if you can contextually remember the late 80s, but that was an incredibly advanced thing to say. I mean, he had a computer in his house. I couldn't imagine why. What on earth do you use this thing for? No surprise, perhaps, that he was also into the occult. Okay, so that's the late 1980s, and he was saying that. Watch this clip from the 1927 movie Metropolis. Need I point out the gigantic upside-down pentagram behind the robot? A robot in 1927. Okay, the scientist is downloading the contents of the woman's brain and uploading them into the robot. 1927. The movie's so old, it's a silent film. They didn't even have the technology to have the audio attached to it, and this is what the movie depicts. Up and downloading the contents of a brain into a robotic body, which is then made into an android. So now it looks like the woman. It just blows me away. That's a Fritz Lang movie. I don't know what he knew, or when he knew it, or how he knew it. Maybe he was just very imaginative. Maybe then again, it's no surprise that here in the late 20s, okay, moving into the early 30s, he was living in Germany at the time when Nazism was starting to formulate. So I don't know. That just blows me away every time I look at it.
We will be able to inject a certain number of nanobots into our bodies, where they will locate our brain cells and copy their functioning. With no effort, we will get a hardware copy of our consciousness that will then send a software copy to a computer, where more copies can be made, or where our consciousness will be allowed to merge with other souls and software programs.
Now, in 1982, the movie Blade Runner came out, and it's based on Philip K. Dick's book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which was published in 1968. And this was kind of seen as groundbreaking because the concept was, could we build androids that are so perfect that they wouldn't even know they're androids? They would think that they're human beings. So that was published in 1968. However, in 1962, a movie was released called The Creation of the Humanoids, based on Jack Williamson's book, The Humanoids of 1953, and it contains exactly that element. Let's look at a clip from that.
Report back to duplication immediately and have the corrections made. It's not in the best interests of humans to hold back the development of robots.
We have to study for years to learn what you pick up by plugging into a brain for 2 hours.
We don't refer to the father-mother as a brain.
Your father-mother's an electronic computer, just a machine.
Your parents were machines. It's just that they were engineered with flesh and bones. Neither are ideal components.
You came off a production line.
I know who created me. Hollister Evans in the Mark 47. You have to accept your creator on faith.
Who created your creator?
Yours. You see, we are brothers, aren't we?
I located and removed a small unit from the thalamic region at the base of the brain. You see, all robots can see, hear, and feel. It's necessary to their function.
Naturally.
This one could taste and smell. And what's even more interesting, he had a complete human memory.
Those refinements are useless to a robot.
Not entirely. This one thought he was a man.
You love that machine?
I love Pac.
And it doesn't make any difference to you that he could be doing the same thing for anyone else who bought him. Can't you see they're killing us with consideration? Spreading us into atrophy? Don't you realize the implication of that? If everything is done for us, there'll be no incentive. Why should we learn mathematics when the computers can find the solutions better and faster? We don't even control them anymore. The brains are designed by other brains. The robots improve themselves. We don't know how. We give them data, they give us answers.
First, there were the plants. They developed into animals which ate the plants. The animals were small, but they grew. And the larger animals ate the smaller animals.
What does that mean?
So far, according to history, each dynasty devises its own end. The animal develops a brain, and the brain destroys the animal.
Our brains conceived you robots. Are you threatening to destroy us?
Oh, no. We are by no means sure that we are the next step. It's just that in view of the cycle, we are the best we have to offer to help you. The cycle is rather inexorable.
That's treason.
No, it isn't. It's logic. I have to be logical. Do you know how the machine analyzes the data?
Well, no, not exactly.
Then how do you know if the father-mother uses all the data you give it? How do you know whether or not supplementary data is considered?
We don't.
Then you might almost say that the machines elect the leaders. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm circuited to be logical and yet not to offend. That sometimes poses an insoluble problem.
Sure, they say the birth rate is 2.8 per contract, but over 25% of the newborn are useless mutants.
Will you contract with me?
It's impossible. The robots are organizing a pseudo-religion. They refer to their recreation centers as their temples, the master computer as the father-mother. When they report there for their periodic rechargings, they receive as well all the information given the computers for analysis in the interim.
But doesn't that mean that within a year, every individual robot will be in possession of all the knowledge in the world?
Exit humanity.
None of the existing R-96s are aware that they're robots. The ones we tried to tell ceased to function.
They ceased to function because they were without faith and hope, important elements to humans. To die and be resurrected as a robot is a deep shock. Creation of an R-96 requires a modified humanoid-type robot and the body of a human being, which has been dead less than 6 hours.
Kragus, you are a robot.
A clicker. Me? Now isn't that something?
You are one of them. Maxine is another. One of our robots. Brought what was left of you to us. We barely got you in time. We did make you a bit thinner. You had a tendency to be plump.
That's right. After that, my clothes didn't fit.
When the time is right, you will announce that you've achieved immortality. When the rush for applications is over, you'll probably be deified.
And that's a lot for a couple of godless, soulless robots.
Are you godless, Kragus? Search yourself, it's important. Are you godless?
No. No, I don't think so. I'm not.
Then you can't be soulless. Look, a man may have his leg amputated. Is his soul decreased by that loss?
No.
Not even a fraction of 1%?
Of course not.
You've just received an artificial body. A new body. Ageless. Tireless. Disease-free and renewable every 200 years.
I guess nothing has changed except maybe a few chemicals.
In effect?
Well, that transplant must include the soul.
No, only the memory which includes the faith that there is a soul. Whatever it is, you seem to have it.
You can raise them to R100s? Make them propagate themselves?
It'll take several simple operations. Hardly more difficult than removing a rib.
Now, as far as I can tell, the 2014 movie Autonoma was just a loose remake of that one. Let's consider this one.
A machine altering itself is a very complex concept. Self-repairing implies some idea of a conscience. Muddy waters.
Why?
You're here today trafficking in nuclear goods because a long time ago a monkey decided to come down from a tree. Transitioning from the brain of an ape to your incredible intellectual prowess took us about 7 million years. It's been a very long road. A unit, however, without the second protocol, could travel that same road in just a few weeks.
Who made you, Jack Volcan?
Do you know what a mother is, Cleo? Of course you don't. You don't know because you're just a machine. That's all you are.
Jack, dying is a part of the human natural cycle. Your life is just a span in time.
You are the first one, aren't you? You start all this.
No one did it. It just happened. The way it happened to you. You just appeared.
Now we're going to disappear.
Why are you afraid? Maybe your time is running out. No life form can inhabit the planet eternally.
Why is it so difficult for you to accept my orders? If you're just a machine.
Just a machine? That's like saying that you are just a name. Just a violent ape.
If you're just a machine.
That's like saying that you are just a name. Just a violent ape.
You note the constant interaction between theology and evolution, and sometimes even the occult within the context of transhumanism. So this, as far as I'm concerned, philosophically, it throws down the existential gauntlet, if you know what I mean, because he asks, well, did you start this? He asked the robot. This being strong is what's known as strong artificial intelligence, right? A natural self-conscious machine. And he says, well, no, it just happened. It just happened just like human beings just happened through evolution, right? So you just happened, we just happened, and there you go. I mean, the deconstruction of God's creation is described in terms of, look, things just happen. Human beings are the next to go extinct. We robots are here. Then we'll go extinct. It just happens all by itself. Lastly, this is from the 1992 movie Lawnmower Man. It's about a man with developmental problems, and his doctor is trying to help him through virtual reality. And this is one of the scenes where he's really strongly entering the virtual realm. You notice this? Look. Let's see if I can... come on. You see these things? They're magical sigils. You can find sigils like this in any occult book. What on earth does virtual reality have to do with occult?
Change brainwave parameters. Initiate second level.
You know what you really want, Marty? Watch this.
Oh my God! Why are you doing?
Virtual reality is not just a simulation. It's a whole other world, a new electric dimension. A utopia, Doctor. The utopia that men have dreamed of for 1,000 years, and I'll be the conduit.
But you're not even human anymore! What you've become terrifies me.
Access denied. Access denied. Access denied.
This universe is mine.